Jaws was, of course, a seminal breakout movie, and we're held responsible for all the monster movies that come out in the summer ever since Jaws did. But Jaws barely had started its record-breaking run when the studio demanded a sequel to be called Jaws 2, naturally.
After the sensational return of Jaws to the screen, what could possibly be more terrifying than Jaws 2?
Steven Spielberg would have none of it. He had done the definitive shark movie.
Sequels really weren't in vogue at that time. Planet of the Apes, you know, was really the forerunner of all of the sequel trend. At first we had hesitation. Do we want to do it? Because it was like trying to recapture winning the lottery. It was the thing to do. It was almost expected. People wanted to revisit that island and see what they would find.
We decided that if we didn't make it, somebody else would make it, and we felt very protective about it. So we went on to design it.
What is it about this place? Everybody's a boat freak.
It's an island.
I'm going sailing.
Again?
I think we have a hell of a good season going for us.
You don't think that if a shark was destroyed, that another shark could come in?
Sharks don't take things personally, Mr. Brody.
I think we may have another shark problem.
No fin, no sharks, nothing but a boating accident.
I want that boat out of the water by tomorrow night, and I mean it.
What's that man doing way up there?
He's looking for sharks.
Out of the water! Out of the water now!
Oh, let me swim! That thing, I know, it's gonna kill him!
I know what a shark looks like because I've seen one up close. I don't intend to go through that hell again.
One minute they were having a wonderful time, and the next...
The development of the script for Jaws 2 was almost as chaotic as the early production of the movie. Peter Benchley, the first writer of Jaws, had different ideas. Arthur C. Clarke did call us, and he had an idea of some great undersea object that was in the Indian Ocean. It was a grandiose idea. We couldn't quite grasp it. Howard Sackler, who had written, with the help of Robert Shaw, the monologue that Shaw gave concerning the demise of the USS Indianapolis in the shark-filled waters during World War II. Howard wanted to actually make a movie of that. It was turned down because it was too far from the mothership and wouldn't resemble Jaws enough.
We realized that what audiences would really want to see was Chief Brody and his family, and we should go back to the island. So that's what we did.
We wanted to go to Martha's Vineyard for a limited time, 2-3 weeks at the most, and then go down to Florida and do all the water stuff.
We had a director named John Hancock, who briefly was on the project. John, very talented, but utterly ill-equipped for this particular movie, as it turned out, left the movie.
So the studio just sort of put a hold, and we all came back. At the time, Verna Fields, who had won the Academy Award for editing Jaws, she had a new position with the studio, a vice president. She said, well, it looks like Ned Tennant, who's president, wants to pull the plug. They discussed different directors, Otto Preminger, Frankenheimer, you know. And there was even talk about Verna and I co-directing it, but the DGA wouldn't allow that. When I did Night Galleries, I did Night Galleries for 3 seasons. There were all these young directors, Spielberg and John Badham, and Jeannot Schwartz was one of the directors that I was very close to, and I thought very creative.
We had worked together intensely on Rod Serling's Night Gallery, which was a terrific show. And he was the production designer. He was very talented, and we got along very well. And then I started doing well, let's say, in long form. I'd done a couple of pilots. I'd done a low-budget picture, a horror film which got some prizes in Europe. And when Jaws 2 happened, it was totally unexpected. I was preparing a pilot for Quinn Martin. And suddenly I got a call from Joe Alves. And he said, would you like to read something? And I said, sure, fine. And he gives me the script of Jaws 2. And I said, but wait a minute, Jaws 2 is shooting already. He said, yes, we're shooting, but there was a problem. So I read the script, and suddenly, out of the blue, I get a call from Verna Fields. And then we had a meeting with Zanuck and Brown. And then they asked me about the script. And I told them what I thought, which was that the action sequences I felt were very good, but I thought some of the character development was weak and some of the dialogue was not very strong. And then suddenly, they started asking me, well, what would you do? And then I started saying, well, I think what would make sense is to pick a real good action sequence that could be orchestrated and would take a while to shoot. And while we're doing that, then we can rewrite the script. And then I think within 48 hours, I had the film. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. Carl Gottlieb started the rewrite. Then we all agreed that I was focusing on the action sequences and the orchestration. Then he was really concentrate on the characters.
So Jeannot and I talked through the outline. We did a presentation at the studio, got a green light, and off I flew to Fort Walton Beach, Florida to start work while the company regrouped. I'd be working in my office in this hotel that was by itself on a beach with no other people except the company, 120 people waiting to go to work. And every time I left my room, 120 different people, perfectly well-meaning, would say to me, how's it going? And I'd go, it's going fine. I'd walk a few hundred yards and they'd go, how's it going? Oh, just great. And I couldn't go out of the room without hearing, how's it going, from somebody in the company. And then eventually I turned out enough pages to get us shooting.
We expanded the character of Roy Scheider. I thought there was this nice obsession, with the shark coming back and this kind of personal demons that no one believed in.
We have a lot of deaths in these waters that never turn up. Are they all shark victims?
Then we sort of strengthened the couple because of their son being in jeopardy.
All I know is a boy is dead and my son and husband are still out there.
And also we fleshed out the kids to try to give each one of them a characteristic that people will recognize. Because we had to spend so much time with them.
Do you always do what your parents tell you to?
No.
Good, then I'll be at the dock at 8.
I had this notion that this cruising culture that was very popular with cars at that time, I said, what if kids cruised on the water the way they cruise on the boulevard? And they've got these elaborate boats that they fix up and that they use. They socialize and all the boy-girl stuff.
Tim, did you see the way she was looking at you? I mean, she wants you, man.
The interplay between the kids can be in connection with this cruising culture. And everybody said, what a good deal. That's a good idea.
I want that boat out of the water by tomorrow night.
Dad, please, can I just take it out?
By tomorrow night. And I mean it.
In terms of the cast, I had Roy, and Roy is a sensational actor. But at the beginning of the film, he was not very happy. I don't know if some of it was due to the fact that he didn't want to do the film or whatever. But once we got into the film, then he was great. And he really delivered.
Listen, do me a favor. Act as if you've been here the whole time.
How do I do that?
Just look bored.
Lorraine, I knew and I'd worked with before. So I had a relationship with her.
Brody, how are you? How are you?
Hello, Martin. I think it went well.
Oh, hell of a speech, Larry.
And Murray Hamilton, I had no problems at all because since I'm a film buff, we talked about all the movies I'd seen him in.
One day I heard from one of my spies that Murray Hamilton was leaving the set. He was leaving for New York. We had established Murray Hamilton as the mayor as he was in the original.
Thank you, Amity High School Band, for that eloquent selection.
I managed to intercept Murray in the lobby of the Holiday Inn with his baggage in his hand. I said, "Sit down, Murray. What's going on?" He said, "David, I couldn't care less about my career. My wife is going through a biopsy for cancer, and I want to be with her. And nothing will keep me from her. I have to be there. To hell with my career." I said, "Murray, I understand completely. What if we finished all your work in the next 2 days? We recalled all the actors from the sea. We rescheduled the scenes in the town hall.
Martin, this is kind of an official meeting.
We finished all his work in the 2 days and sent him to New York. His wife was given a pass on her biopsy, so she was okay, but Murray died. But I did have the pleasure of seeing him again in the looping stage here in New York, and his wife was ever so grateful, and I couldn't imagine any other way of handling it. Zanuck and I agreed that Murray deserved that. Fine actor, he finished the job.
Oh, Hendricks, good. Right this way. Excuse us, please. I want you to come in here and check out this 908.
What the hell's a 908? I never heard of a 908.
908 means get me out of there.
Jeff Kramer, who plays Roy Scheider's deputy, when I showed up, he was not on the film. And I said, "What happened? I liked that character in the first one." They told me, I think the first director didn't like him or whatever. So I said to Carlo, "Let's bring him back."
Want me to run out there?
So we brought him back, and then Jeff and I became like brothers.
Happy to do it.
The camera crew was fantastic. I had seen some of Michael Butler's work, and then we established a relationship immediately. And then his brother, David Butler, did a lot of the second unit photography. And suddenly we realized that the ocean, Mother Nature, is nothing to make fun of.
Out of the water! Out of the water now!
It was incredible, the punishment any kind of equipment would take the minute you went into the water. And we were in the Gulf of Mexico, which means there were days where we had huge waves, and we had one Tyler mount, which was a mount with a gyroscope that you put the camera on, and even if the ship is moving, the camera will stay horizontal no matter what. And then we had this round contraption that we put in front of the camera, the thing that turns very, very fast, so we'll prevent spray from going into the lens. So all the shots that involve the big shark, when they were combined with bad weather, became really a nightmare. You take a sequence like where the sailboats start turning over. Each sailboat was anchored underwater, and the shark was on this 3-ton platform. So then we'd bring the shark and put that in the middle, and then you'd pray that the wind wouldn't change. Because if the wind changed, you had to start from scratch. I kept saying from the beginning, we must show the shark a lot. Because that image of the shark coming out of the water for the first time, it's already happened. In the first one, that is never going to happen again. And it was interesting to me because everything I kept hearing a lot was, don't show the shark. Joe Alves, who was the production designer on the first one as well, had brought Bob Matty out of retirement to do the shark for the first one. And Joe had a lot to do with it too. Here, it was more ambitious.
We used the same molds, so we didn't have to remodel the shark. But all the interior structure, all the valves and electronics and stuff had to be redone because the sharks from Jaws 1 were put out on the back lot, unfortunately, and just left to rot. It made Bob Matty develop a very, very complicated system. And we had basically the same process of a platform shark.
That was the expensive shark. We used to call it the luxurious shark. And the reason that the area of Florida had been chosen was because it was the proper depth. So first you sunk the platform, Then you put the shark on top of that platform, and it was on a sort of little train, guided like a missile. One other alternative we had was we had a fin, a big fin that was pulled by a boat.
We did a faster sea sled fin, which we used for the water ski sequences and some of the fast boat sequences.
They had also a life-size shark that was pulled. That entailed a whole new series of problems, which was that whenever you wanted to shoot the shark approaching, you had to wait till the boat that was pulling it went out, and you had to hope there weren't going to be any ripples, and the angle was perfect. And then we asked them to try and fix that shark so at least it would open the mouth and do something so it looked as if it were going to bite. So that we would have an alternative whenever there would be problems with a luxury shark. We all agreed that what had been done could not be duplicated because the opening of Jaws is extraordinary. I think it's the strongest opening of any film ever made. But then I said, let's make it then very beautiful, you know, very sort of ethereal and strange, and like another world. So then I think Carl came up with a very good point, that to try and make it a plot point. And then the value of that opening became, instead of just being a titillation to tell the audience there's a shark, we didn't need to do that. They already knew by the fact that they'd committed to see the film that there was a shark. So then it became also to establish a sort of a clue which would work later, which is the photograph. We had to be careful that there was good visibility. When the currents get too strong, you can't see anything, so you can't photograph. So that opening we shot at the end in Catalina, which is in Southern California. When you go to a place like Catalina, what you're getting is the depth and the scope, which is the existing nature underwater. So it's very good when you're doing people swimming towards you or swimming away from you. But when you get to very precise things, like seeing the shark and the head of the shark, it was just so complicated an operation that we would have never pulled it off. So we decided we would do that at an underwater tank at MGM.
The idea of a water skier being caught by a shark. It actually came from a documentary I saw about nuclear submarines. And you got to see a nuclear submarine at sea, kind of just a conning tower or something, overtaking a speedboat. And the notion that something like a 3,000 tons nuclear submarine going faster than a water ski boat gave you an idea, holy, this is really a fast boat. So the idea that a shark could catch a water skier, our shark, you know, and we wanted to make our shark at least as dangerous as a nuclear submarine.
We had a champion water skier. She was really great. And we were doing water skiing out in the ocean, which gets really tricky because it gets very choppy. And at times she was like really skiing waves.
That was really a very complicated sequence. I was really keen on having a POV of the shark, which means to do a shot where you're underwater and you're following the water skier and all you see is the water skis on top. We reached a point where we couldn't make it work. We had a head grip called Gino, an old-timer, one of those guys, you know, who's done everything and started in the old days and knew it all. And we're sitting at a bar one night, and he said, "You really keen on this?" I said, "Oh boy, I'm really keen on this." I said, "Come on, do it. Can you do it for me?" He said, "This is what I want." So he wanted a warehouse. He wanted like 3 or 4 guys. And he wanted no questions, and he wanted 2 weeks. So we gave it to him. We split him from the main unit. He came up with a thing that worked. What he did was this. He licked the inertia by not starting on the water. He took a catamaran and he stripped it, And on top of it, he put a small stage crane. And at the end of the stage crane, he put a helicopter bubble. And then we put the operator on his belly with the camera. And then we started gaining speed. And when we reached enough speed, we'd lower the stage crane into the water. And then we'd start shooting. And that's how we got that shot. And then the second part of the sequence, which is when the shark gets burned, then it was just trial and attempt with, when the fire starts and the proper amount and the right angle for the shark's head to come out. A lot of the wide shots were done by second unit.
The fact that the shark was scarred in the first attack, the first surface attack, again gives you a little sympathy for the shark. He's just eating and somebody, sets off an explosion in his face. And it gives the shark a more characteristically villainous expression, Scarface the shark.
It's out there all right. It's a big mother, too.
Come on, Tina, come back. No, come on.
We built this 80-foot lighthouse, and it gave us really a New England look. We always planned the lighthouse for long shots or, close. And then Geno asked me to get a shot, second unit shot, of a boat coming and turning left. So I thought it'd be great if I could get up above the lighthouse and shoot across the lighthouse. So we're up there on this gigantic crane. And as I got up there, I realized that the top of the lighthouse wasn't finished. It was just like bare plywood. And I couldn't shoot that. And I couldn't put a report as that the second unit director refuses to do the shoot the set because it's not finished. Being the production designer, it would be sort of embarrassing. But they started to get very windy. And second unit cameraman David Butler, I said, it's pretty windy up here. He says, yeah, I don't know if it's such a good day to shoot this. I says, good, let's wrap it. We'll do it some other time. So then I called my art director. I says, finish that lighthouse, And we came back and shot it another day. I think we did really excellent killer whale. We made a clay model and we made a mold, and we had some really funny situations because we wanted seagulls eating the open wound, and we got this animal trainer, and he just had the hardest time trying to keep the seagulls on the whale. He had them tied with monofilament line, and they would start to try to fly up, and it was quite humorous.
Jesus.
The studio was getting dailies before we were. The word was there was something wrong with the whale. They thought it was too shiny. But we didn't see what they meant. Killer whales have very shiny skin. We were just trying to reproduce it the way, Shamu looks. So I don't know what they were thinking, but we were very sort of confused. And then this next day shooting, I think we dulled it down a little bit and we put some sand on it.
All through the film, Roy Scheider sees and thinks about things, and everybody thinks he's completely crazy.
What shark?
The shark that did this.
We don't know that, do we?
But he's not crazy. He's right. His phantoms are real.
That's a shark.
Sorry, I just don't see it.
Neither do I. It's nothing.
We felt that we needed something early on that would make the audience kind of jump and get them hooked and give them a taste of things to come. We just prepared this dummy, and then, it was a question of orchestrating the suspense. Even when we storyboarded, I kept on saying, that moment has to be very, very subjective. It's got to really jump at you. And eventually, we had to put people underwater who were literally pushing it, so you get this.
What are you guys up to today?
I don't know about him, but I'm going sailing.
Again?
Well, what else is there to do?
Hurry up, suckers! You're driving!
The boats were selected with John Hancock, and they had a much different tone. They were painted darker, not as joyful, because the whole tone of the movie was darker. When we started the movie the second time, we sort of brightened up the colors. And we had various catamarans, and then we had a sloop. So their speeds were all different. It was so frustrating because you've got all the boats passing